Can you hear me? Can you hear me? A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Kolla Krishna Madhavi, and I will be walking you through the international marketing session. Can you all hear me? Okay, so let's start today's session. Fundamentally, we will be walking through international marketing, and I will be guiding you through this course. I am Kolla Krishna Madhavi, and before we start, I invite all of you program, and we'll be talking about in marketing and how it's going to help you in your career. Also help you in understanding what international marketing is all about. At the start, let us understand how many your blocks are there. So fundamentally, the entire course is divided into five blocks. So block one, two, three, four, and five. Now, each of the blocks have three chapters or units, as we call. So today we'll be going through block one, that is international marketing environment. And in that, we will be covering unit one, international marketing, nature and scope. Let us start with understanding what is international marketing environment all about. Today, as you all know, the world has emerged as a global market, and the opportunities in any nation are now not enjoyed just by the people of that nation, but even citizens of other nations are able to equally access any products and services that are being offered by this company. So, due to global thinking, there are very liberal dealings with others, whether it's in terms of positive attitude towards privatization, availability of necessary guidelines, facilities, encouragement is also there in terms of how we can open up our domestic markets to an international business market. One thing we need to understand is that whatever we may work in a domestic environment may not be able to be replicated exactly in an overseas market. However, in terms of the broad structure, size, and strategy, the size of business, expansion strategies, the potential size, the demand of the chosen environmental market internationally, the economic and business environment, these are all parameters that may change. However, the fundamental product remains the same. So that is what we need to understand. Unless the company is going for some kind of a customization with its international consumers. So, block one is divided into three units: international marketing, nature and scope, unit one; international marketing, environmental analysis, unit two; and entering international markets, unit three. So today we will be talking in terms of Unit 1, that is International Marketing, Nature and Scope. So what is this unit all about? If we see in terms of its concept and the focus in this chapter is on the domestic marketing and how it is differentiated from international marketing. We also identify the reasons as to why companies choose international marketing and the benefits and demerits of multinational companies and what are the barriers to international marketing. Now, in terms of structure, what we'll be walking through is introduction, international marketing, meaning, nature, and scope, domestic and international marketing, domestic marketing versus international marketing, reasons for international marketing, and so on and so forth. So let us just first look at introduction. Today, the world, as we were discussing, has been changed wide over. It has emerged as a global market, and the opportunities to a nation are many. Now, if we see in terms of what are the businesses like, the opportunities in an international market is a multifold of what is available domestically. If we see an example like Apple, as we know, it is a tech giant which has originated in California in terms of its iPhone, but today it manufactures in multiple countries, whether it's Mongolia, China, Korea, Taiwan, and so on and so forth. So Apple has not restricted its business to a single nation, whereas it has expanded throughout the world. The reason for it is very simple. Like we just mentioned, there is a multifold opportunity available when you open your markets to the international world. So the market is, in a way, limitless. So in international marketing, meaning, nature, and scope, the first thing that we need to look at is international marketing definition by American Marketing Association. So what they state is international marketing is multinational process of planning and executing the conception, pricing, promotion, and distribution of ideas, goods, and services to create exchange that satisfy individual and organizational objectives. There are other definitions given by Doole and Lowe and Catioro and Graham, Tepestra and Saradi. Fundamentally, if you look in terms of what we understand from all these definitions, is one, that international in marketing involves the firm looking beyond its domestic shores. Number two, it may be in terms of manufacturing locally and selling internationally, or even the manufacturing facility can be uh, done overseas, and coordinated marketing strategies may be applied across the globe from either a head office in the local market, or it can be also further subdivided as SBOs in different nations depending on the size of expected business. Now, the activities that are important to consider are in terms of not only planning, but the pricing, the promotion, and of course, the physical movement of a company's goods or services to more than one nation. However, what we need to understand is that whenever any business exists, it exists for a profit, whether the profit is near term or immediate or set for a future market and time, doesn't matter. In terms of the company's strategy, it may vary. However, it's important to understand that every business works for a profit. So let us understand the nature and scope of international marketing. So access to broader markets, because we are going across and in our domestic shores, like we are in India, so we are going beyond India's shores. Second is it involves at least two sets of uncontrollable variables. So what are they? In domestic marketing, the marketers have to only interact with one set of uncontrollable variables, whereas in terms of international marketing, the variables would be both in terms of the local government, the consumers, the domestic stakeholders, as well as the international markets and what conditions they have to offer. The third one is it requires broader competence. So special management skills and broader competence is required in international marketing business. Then the next one is competition. As we know, a domestic market may be crowded, but when we go to an international market, it gets even more crowded and intense as there are a number of international competitors from different countries who are playing in the same field or who are marketing in the same area. So it also involves high risk and challenges because we understand that there is not only political risk, but cultural differences, changes in fashion and style of foreign customers, if it were to do with apparel, or sudden wars, or changes in government policies and regulations, the communication challenges due to language and cultural barriers, etc. So the trade block and that impact. Now, this is another important thing that needs to be considered. Several nations come together to form trade blocks. Now, what are these trade blocks like European Union, etc.? So what they do is they try to facilitate free world trade. At the same time, they're also cautious about how any harmful effects in terms of pricing or products which may impact their own local market. So there is a lot of regulation that happens in these trade blocks. So the features of international marketing, the first one is it's a large scale operation. So international marketing, as we now have understood, is done doing marketing on a large scale. We are going beyond our country. So definitely it implies that there is a wholesale business that is being done, not just a retail business. We are not selling at one shop internationally. What we are looking at, that means what companies are looking at, is selling in multiple locations across either one international market or multiple international markets. This means that there is large scale operations regarding transportation, handling, and warehousing. The second aspect is predominant presence of MNCs and developed countries. So MNCs have worldwide contacts. They dominate the international market, particularly those which emerge from developed countries already have an edge in terms of having operated within their own domestic limitations. They have the expertise to expand internationally faster and maybe in a more easier manner. The third one is in terms of international restrictions. So one thing that we were talking about just now was in terms of trade blocks, or they may cause certain trade barriers. However, there are also certain countries which have some trade restrictions, both in terms of tariff and non-tariff, due to the protective policies followed by those specific countries. Like certain goods are not allowed into those countries. A lot of times, for example, within India, being an agrarian industry by large, there are a lot of products that we have curtails on in terms of imports. So similarly, other countries may also have restrictions in terms of what products can be sent to them. The next one is in terms of presence of trading blocks. Like we were just talking of European Union, there are other blocks like North American Free Trade Area or NAFTA. So they have also certain limitations or they try to reduce or eliminate trade barriers. At the same time, they also are focused on a mutual benefit between different trading blocks. So they try to facilitate. At the same time, they also try to safeguard their own country's businesses. So three-phase competition. Now, what happens is suppliers have to look from suppliers from our country, local producers, as well as suppliers from other countries. That is why we are talking about a three-phased competition. However, if you look at a local or regional market, it is a one-phase competition because only local players are there. If our country has opened its trade barriers to allow other competitors to come into the market, then we will face a similar three-phased competition. Then international, or it will be a two-phase competition, both domestic and international. International forums. Now, there are forums like the World Trade Organization and UNCTAD, which have a deep knowledge of the rules and regulations of different forums. And what they do is they try to regulate international trade to a large extent. There is also an aspect of international marketing research because here we are not just talking in terms of retailing our products, we are talking in terms of wholesaling our products. So that means there has to be adequate knowledge about customers, dealers, and competitors, as well as the curtails that can happen because of social, cultural, economic, or political environment of global markets. The next factor that we need to consider is sensitive and flexible. Why is it sensitive and flexible? It's primarily because of the possible political and economic reasons which may escalate or change suddenly. And we will have little play in terms of stopping or getting out of that kind of a scenario. For example, a sudden war emerges. We are not in a position to immediately withdraw our products or bring back all our products from an international space. So that is what we are talking about. So advanced technology. Now we know that in advanced countries like USA, Japan, and Germany, there is a lot of focus on using advanced technology in production and marketing of goods, whether it's in terms of digital marketing or using of AR and VR, etc. So the market is very dynamic and competitive, and we should be able to sell products of highest quality at very, very competitive prices. The next aspect is lengthy and time consuming. So here, international marketing is lengthy because it is spread over long distances. If I have to ship something from, say, India to the USA, either I ship by air or water, and it's going to take considerable amount of time. Now, my decision may be based on multiple things: the size of my product, if containers are required, what is the costing, the durability of my product. For example, if it is food or even processed food, they may have a limited shelf life. So all these factors come into consideration when we are talking in terms of selling beyond the country. And the advantage is also that there is a wide scope. So here, in terms of product planning, product development, pricing, packaging, branding, advertising, etc., we have some flexibility in terms of what we can customize to that specific market based on their socio-economic, cultural conditions. And then the long-term marketing planning. So marketing planning cannot be done for just the next 6 months or 1 year. People who enter an international market are generally looking at a long-term commitment. So that means that they need to consider the social, economic, and political factors before they enter into that market. At the same time, they're also looking at the kind of products that are locally available and the competitors and the size of market or business. So now let us look at an understanding of the difference between domestic and international
marketing. Fundamentally, if we were to look at the definition of marketing, it is defined as a set of activities which are undertaken by the company to provide satisfaction to the customers through value addition and making good relations with them to increase their brand value. So, what does this mean? This means that there are two types of marketing. First and foremost, in this case, domestic, and the second, international. However, one thing we need to understand is that whether it is domestic or international business, there is always a need to provide satisfaction to the customers, both through value addition and making good relations with them. So that improves the overall company or brand value. Now, in terms of domestic marketing, the strategies that are employed to attract and influence customers within the political boundaries of a country are known as domestic marketing. So, if I'm operating only within India, then I would say that I'm only focused as a company on domestic marketing. So, this is the local market where products are being sold. The selling of a company's items in financial market of the country means that there is no or limited language obstruction. Of course, in a country as diverse as India, from state to state and even from region to region, or even within a state, there are a lot of obstructions in terms of the language, the culture, the kind of socio-cultural traditions that are followed. However, broadly, if we see in terms of a domestic market, they are more homogeneous in nature, both in terms of the requirements and the spend. There is a broad understanding in terms of what is possible. However, in international marketing, where there are no boundaries for a company, its target market customers are definitely more used to a very, very competitive environment. That means that they have more choice in terms of the competitors who are selling multiple goods, and they are usually of a certain quality and of a certain value that is being provided to the customer. So similarly, when we go into an international market, we need to understand that the requirements of diverse buyers are vast and wide. However, there is an additional time and exertion that is required. So domestic marketing versus international marketing. We were looking at um, uh, what is domestic marketing and what is international marketing. So in terms of the definition, we already have understood that domestic marketing refers to home country as a domestic market, whereas in the case of international marketing, it talks of planning and pricing and promotion across either one other country other than the domestic market or many more. The role of politics, if we see, political factors are of minor importance. Political factors in international markets have a major or vital role to play. Language and culture. Here, we are talking of one language and culture. Of course, like we just discussed, India is a different ball game altogether. But in most countries, we notice that there is only one language and culture. Whereas when you're selling in international market, you have to coordinate with multiple languages and differences in cultures. The financial climate in a country is more uniform, whereas the financial climate, that means the kind of trade barriers, the kind of taxes, the kind of product limitations in terms of pricing that are set may vary internationally. The risk involved selling domestically is normal, but there is a higher risk of different nature involved internationally. The control of marketing activities also, if we were to look at it, It is far easier in a domestic market, whereas internationally there are a number of factors like regional, cultural, political, etc., that comes into play. Now, in terms of familiarity, because we are already working in the local market, we understand what kind of market is available locally. But in terms of foreign market, a lot of in-depth research is definitely essential. So knowledge requirement, what is this? This means that management knowledge is required both domestically and internationally. But internationally, you may also need to have additional management skills or knowledge and competency based on that particular country. So if I were to expand my business to Singapore, I'm not comfortable from day one unless I do extensive research and I gain that knowledge and over a period in time, the competency to work seamlessly in that particular nation. So product mix is dependent domestically on in terms of the satisfaction and increasing sales, and the same more or less applies internationally too. It depends on what is the local market there or here all about. So product planning and development happens according to the domestic market, whereas internationally, you also have to understand whether they have certain restrictions. For example, if you were selling plastic in Indian market, as an example, maybe it is accepted, but the same quality of plastic may not be acceptable as packaging, say, in an international market like the US. So that is why we are saying that there could be some variance in terms of the product planning and development, also in terms of packaging and pricing. The focus here, of course, is of general information, whereas internationally, you're looking at more of a strategic emphasis. The market aspect is more homogeneous, like we were discussing, although there may be different segments in terms of market segmentation. Whereas in terms of international market, it may be quite different or diverse, and markets are usually fragmented in nature. By that, what we mean is when we say fragmented, that means that each is working like a pocket, and within that particular country or pocket, we have a certain type of business that we are considering as market. The same may not apply in another nation, like we developed countries like America, USA, or Japan, or Germany, for example. We were talking in terms of the technology advancement. So the same may not apply to third world countries or say, remote area countries. So in which case, we have to understand that there is a big difference in terms of the market aspect. The reasons for international marketing. The motives for a firm to go international marketing is broadly divided as pull and push factors. Now, what are pull factors? Pull factors are proactive and forces of attraction which pull the business to the international market, whereas the push factors are reactive. So what happens here is there are compulsions in the domestic market which promote companies to internalize. So some of the important motives or reasons for a firm to enter into a foreign market are profit motive. This is pretty clear whether it is domestic or international market. The most attractive form is, of course, the kind of profits that can be earned. So even if internationally the profit is less than the overall domestic market, we have to consider it in terms of the total profit that occurs there. So the other reason also could be the discount or the reduction in the cost of production, taking advantage of substantially cheap labor. Like Apple, for example, has a lot of manufacturing facilities in Southeast Asia where the cost of labor may be far less than that of the US. So this is what we mean by the profit motive. So it's not only earning more, but is also about cutting the costs. The growth opportunities. So the increasing growth potential of many foreign markets is in terms of a strong attraction, where uh, the competition may be more, but the size of the consumers is also more. Whereas industrialized countries are many. Countries like India and China have joined the bandwagon as newly industrializing countries. So they are growing much faster than actually the developed countries. So a lot of foreign companies have started investing a lot in India or China for that matter, because they find a huge potential market here. So the domestic market constraints could be in terms of, where the product potential is not fully tapped. The market may also become saturated. Certain products in that particular company may find that in that specific country, it has already reached more or less a saturation point, and there may not be much sense in scaling the business in that particular region. So they may decide to go to foreign markets to increase the market size. Competition. Now, whether we are within the country or outside, there could be several other competitors who have already been there for some time and have established long-term strategies. Now, to counter these kind of competitions, the company may decide to focus either in domestic or go overseas to an entirely new market, depending on what is available. So they are trying to, on the one hand, protect the domestic market share from foreign penetration. At the same time, they may also wish to increase their own market penetration by going to a foreign country. So the government policies and regulations. The government policies and regulations also motivate the companies to go for international markets. So government policies may also limit the scope of companies in the home country itself, and that may be also a reason to provoke these companies to move to other countries. If, for example, there are certain products like, say, cigarettes or tobacco, which is banned in the US, as an example, then companies which are manufacturing tobacco products may decide to move to other countries which are not, do not have a ban in place, and they may be ready to import these items. So monopoly power. So monopoly is when there is a single company which is taking over the entire market. However, there can be certain advantages of monopolization, like resources, patent rights, technological advantages, etc. But monopoly need not be an absolute one. It can only be a dominant position that the company may have. For example, if we were to look at Hero Honda, it has about 43% of market share in automobile two-wheelers in India. Now, it is not in a state of monopoly. There are several other players, for example. But what is important to understand is that it has a large chunk of the market. So that is what we need to understand. So the next one is in terms of spin-off benefits. So international business may help the country and the company, to be more specific, develop a foreign image and growth. So there are a lot of products, like example, capital goods, technology, expertise, and manpower, which may not be otherwise possible in countries like India. But when they move out to other countries, they may get a better exposure. So that can be a spin-off benefit. Like a lot of software IT companies and even a few hardware companies in software, in IT, moved out of India. Some examples are like Wipro and HP, or Accenture, etc. which moved overseas and gained a sizable chunk of the market, but they also got better branding in terms of them being a global player. Strategic vision. The stimulus of a business policy or strategic management makes the companies want to grow. They want to be more competitive. They feel the need to diversify and gain strategic advantage of internationalization. So that is also a factor that needs to be considered. Now, when we look in terms of internalization stages, there are several stages that we need to understand in more depth. So, the expansionary process is also characterized by increasing the product mix and the number of market segments. So, what is a product mix? The type of products that I am selling. For example, if I'm selling chocolates, what are the different types of chocolates that I am selling? If I'm talking in terms of water, for example, Nestle sells water. Is it only one type of water, or is it multiple bottle varieties that they sell? So that is what we mean by product mix. And the number of market segments. So each region could be a market segment, or each country could be a market segment. When I say region, for example, Asia Pacific or APAC can be one region and may be considered as one market segment, which has some similarity in terms of the kind of customers, the socio-cultural environment, or each country could be divided into a different market segment. Also, we need to understand the countries of operation. For example, I may be manufacturing my products, items in a country like Korea. However, I may not be selling my products in Korea. So I am only using it as an operational, as only a manufacturing base and not as a marketing or selling base. So that is where we need to understand the difference. So now let us look in terms of the stages in the evolutionary process for these companies which are going globally. The first one is in terms of a domestic company. As we are very clear by now, companies which operate within their own environment, country environment, are known as domestic companies. There is ethnocentric orientation for these companies where they're operating domestically because of either they never considered going international, or number two, they were not ready for the kind of risks involved or the investments that may be required to diversify into new markets. So they have certain constraints under which they are operating within the boundaries of their own country. The second stage after the domestic company is the international company. Here, international company primarily indicates a transitional corporation. So, what does it mean? The orientation of the company is still ethnocentric. However, the marketing strategy sees an extension. So the marketing mix is developed for the home market, but the same is extended into foreign markets. So I'm not making much of a change in my marketing mix. Whatever I'm doing domestically, I'm doing the same internationally too. So that is where my company has moved from a domestic company to an international company. The third stage is multinational companies. Here, the orientation, which was ethnocentric in the first two stages, now moves to a polycentric stage. That means the international company has become multinational. So here, the company decides to respond to market differences. So it evolves into a stage three multinational that pursues a multi-domestic strategy. So what the company does is it changes its marketing mix as needed, where needed, as per the requirements of a foreign country. And at the same time, the company focuses on having a world headquarters, which becomes the reporting head for all regional operations across different geographies. The next one, that is the fourth stage, is the Global Transitional Corporation. So, according to Keegan, global company represents stage 4 and is a transnational company, stage 5 in the evolution of companies. However, several people use these terms as synonyms, and by global corporation, they refer to the final stage in the development of the corporation. So here, Keegan states that the global company will have either a global marketing strategy or a global sourcing strategy, but not both. That means either I'm selling internationally or I'm acquiring my products from from multiple global sources. For example, I may be selling Adidas shoes in India. Now, I may not be manufacturing Adidas shoes in India because it is not an Indian company. However, I'm selling it locally. So that means the Adidas company has a global marketing strategy. So that is what we need to understand. Now, in terms of interpretation by others, all strategies, product development, production, including sourcing, marketing, etc., will be global in respect of the global corporation. So, though there is a little difference in terms of the understanding of what is a global transitional corporation, whether it is a company which only has a global market or it has a global source, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the presence of the company is in multiple nations across the world. So the transitional companies so is not just one company with sales, investments, and operations in many countries. So what we need to understand is the company which is increasingly dominating markets and industries across the world is an integrated world enterprise that links global resources with global markets at a profit. Few examples that we can look at it here are in terms of, say, Google or Microsoft, or even product based companies like Apple, etc. So, what are the benefits of international marketing? The main advantage of international marketing is, number one, it provides higher standard of living. So, definitely, a high standard lifestyle and wealth to citizens of nations participating in international marketing is available. So, goods that cannot be produced in home country due to certain geographical restrictions prevailing in that country are produced by countries which have abundance of raw material. So, for example, if I were to look at, say, India or Brazil, where there is an abundance of sugarcane, so the advantage I have is not only use sugarcane to produce juice, but I can use the pulp to manufacture a variety of products. So that is the advantage of having an abundance of raw material, which again affects how the standard of living is in that particular market. The opportunity to specialize. So when you go into an international market, you can open up avenues for a new line of service or products. What I may not be doing within the country, I may decide to do abroad. There could be some product variation that I may come up with, or there could be an entirely new product or innovation that can happen. One example, if we were to look at for within India, let us say if we were to take toothpaste as one example, if you see in terms of India, a lot of toothpaste, like even Colgate, focus on using a lot of natural ingredients like clove, etc., to manufacture the toothpaste. So, what is happening here is that there is some kind of innovation that is happening, whether in terms of upgrading the existing product or introducing new variants of the product. So it ensures rational and optimum utilization utilization of resources. Definitely, what happens is if I'm manufacturing as a company and I have some surplus, like say raw material or crude oil, consumer goods, even machinery and services, and if I'm able to offload them to other countries, then definitely I'm gaining in terms of an optimum utilization of resources. So think if some of the Arab countries were to say that we have access to crude oil, but we will keep the oil to ourselves. Now, will these countries be what they are? So that is what we need to understand. So they sell crude oil or they sell refined oil to other countries. Other countries may take the crude oil as an input, process it, make it into more refined nature, which could be used for various purposes, both industrial and domestic, and export again the processed oil. So that is also a possibility that we were talking in terms of either in terms of manufacturing in a different country and selling to a third country, or manufacturing within your own country and selling outside the country, or manufacturing and selling into different domestic markets and further into international markets. The next one is in terms of rapid industrial growth. So, a country which is opened up into international marketing provides more job opportunities, complete utilization of natural resources, etc. India is a prime example of a rapid industrial growth nation, where after the 1993 opening up of the country to foreign investments and also allowing more countries to enter into our market and more products from our market to be sold internationally. It showed that the liberalization, privatization, and growth was very, very effective in terms of accelerating the industrial growth of our country. So, benefit of competitive cost. International marketing ensures comparative cost benefits to all the participating countries. So, these countries avail the benefits of division of labor and specialization at the international level through international marketing. The next point that we need to consider is international cooperation and world peace. So, trade relations established through international marketing brings nations closer, both in terms of developing a mutual understanding, but also in terms of enhancing the collaborative work environment. Then facilitates cultural exchange. So as we move to different countries, we understand the socio-cultural behavior patterns and trends in that country. At the same time, we are not only learning, but also passing on from one nation to another nation in terms of the cultural elements of those countries. So it becomes more of a global world. A better utilization of surplus production. We have already talked about this. The next one is in terms of availability of foreign exchange. Now, this is, of course, governed by the government and the banking sector, whoever heads the banking sector, like RBI in India, they set the rules in terms of what kind of foreign exchange happens. At the same time, if that is possible, then importing capital goods, modern technology, etc., means certain foreign exchange is being either sent out of the country, or being a certain currency is being sent out of the country, or certain foreign exchange is being welcomed into the country. And then there is also an expansion of tertiary sector. So what is this tertiary sector? In not only in terms of the countries which are doing business, but or the companies which are doing business. There is also an infrastructure facility that is expanding, because better transport, banking, insurance, etc., which are not part of the main business exchange, but still contribute to the business in terms of support or infrastructure, is being developed. So, international orientation, when we talk about this, we need to understand that Wynne Douglas and Perlmutter, they provided the EPRG approach to analyze the degree and nature of involvement. So, what is this EPRG approach? The first one is the ethnocentric orientation or home country orientation. Here, where companies are called domestic companies, like we talked about a little while ago. The advantage of operating with an ethnocentric as an ethnocentric company is that you are doing a tried and true business. You already have familiarity in both in terms of the knowledge, the organizational capabilities in that particular region. So there is an ethnocentrism. So that means that foreign markets are viewed as a means of disposing of surplus domestic production. Your focus is not in terms of selling to another country by customizing your product to that country's requirements, but selling the excess or surplus that you have. A lot of times this happens in terms of apparel, shirtings, clothing, etc. Polycentric orientation. Here, the opposite nature of ethnocentrism. This means the company begins to recognize the importance of inherent differences in overseas market. So polycentric, that means more than one. A polycentric attitude emerges. The philosophy here is that local personnel and techniques are best suited to deal with local market conditions, whereas subsidiaries are established in overseas market and each subsidiary operates independently of the others and establishes its own marketing objectives and plans. The environment of each market is also considered while you're formulating the marketing strategy. The second one is having seen in terms of polycentric. The third one is in terms of regiocentric orientation. So here, the country is broadly clubbed together. That is, different countries are broadly clubbed together as varying regions, like we talked about APAC, etc. So, certain strategic integration, organizational approach, and product policies are applied at that particular region because there can be certain similarity in terms of the market conditions in that particular region. So, what the company does is it may have certain regional headquarters, but also it may have individual subsidiaries in another. So there is some kind of flexibility that is happening. But overall, the nature of this approach or orientation is to make the entire business internationally more economical and manageable. So the orientation is having a world view, but on a regional scale. That means you're looking at the world as a whole, but you're operating within a specific region, which may consist of a few countries. Geocentric orientation here, this is a synthesis of both ethnocentrism and polycentrism. That means it is truly a world view that is happening. So there is a similarity and differences that are occurring in the markets and countries and seek to create a global strategy that is not only responsive to local needs, but also being able to sell the products in an international market. So the learning curve there is a little steep, but overall, if a company is looking at long-term business, then that is a very good approach to have. Then if you look at multinational companies like MNCs, these are companies which are incorporated in one country, which is the home country or the domestic country, but whose operations extend beyond the home country and carry on business in other countries, which are called as the host countries. Now, the advantages of multinational companies are several. If you see in terms of Coca-Cola, Procter and Gamble, or Lenovo, or even Samsung and Hyundai across different verticals, we notice that there is huge assets and turnover. There is a unity of control. The economic power of these MNCs is very, very high and strong. They are able to adopt advanced technology. At the same time, they are able to offer better quality products, more professionals in terms of the management on a day-to-day and long-term business. At the same time, the marketing is also far more aggressive. So merits of an MNC are that investment level is higher, or they are able to scale beyond a domestic or home country. They are able to have transnational corporations which become vehicles for transfer of technology. They also have a managerial revolution in the host countries because they are able to offer more professional management in their day-to-day operations or long-term operations. They also enable the host countries to increase their exports and decrease their import requirements because they are operating in that particular country. So it is more or less being offered as a local product itself. They work to equalize the cost of factors of production around the world. They're also able to integrate national economies because they're operating in multiple countries. The enormous resources of the MNCs are also that an opportunity to have more efficient R&D systems, and at the same time they're able to support their own operations. They also increase competition and break down monopolies. There are certain demerits that also need to be understood. It could be in terms of MNCs having a profit motive as the primary goal, or in terms of restricting competition, or also in terms of charging heavy fees and charges in their host countries. This is something which is very often seen in technology. It could work both ways. It could be that you are charging higher or lower in other countries. The tremendous power of the global corporation is also going to have certain risks involved. There is also a depletion of the non-renewable natural resources in the host country because you have set up operations physically there and you may be manufacturing physically there. You also have tactics like transfer pricing, where they are trying to avoid heavy duty tax liabilities by manipulating prices in that particular country. So barriers in international marketing, first is political and legal barriers. Second is cultural barriers in terms of consumerism, environmental policies, etc. Economic differences that may be there between the home country and the host country. The differences in the currency unit, which can also be work two ways, depending on whether you have a strong currency or you have a weaker currency as compared to the other global country. There is also a difference in the language, in the marketing infrastructure, trade restrictions, high cost of distances, in terms of transporting. We already talked about shipping through air or water. The differences in the trade practices and how that is being regulated by either the government or through the trade blocks. So, in essence, what we would like to sum up this unit is that international marketing involves the firm in making one or more marketing mix decisions across national boundaries. And at its most complex level, it involves the firm in establishing manufacturing facilities overseas and coordinating marketing strategies across the globe. And in a simpler structure, where everything is done in the host country, that is one option. Or number two is where everything is being done in the domestic country, that is the country of origin, and you're only selling your final product overseas. So the multiple options that are available. So Wynne Douglas and Perlmutter provided EPRG approach. This is important in terms of the orientation that happens towards international business. This could be in terms of ethnocentric, polycentric, regiocentric, or geocentric. And then we also spoke briefly about multinational companies and how they have certain merits and demerits, both in terms of what they are offering within the country and what they're offering internationally. So with this, we come to the end of this particular unit. unit. And I'll be stopping here. And further, we will be continuing in the next session. Thank you. Have a wonderful day ahead.